Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now, we've been talking about, for almost the last month, to be fair, relationships for the most part. An awful lot on relationships as it happens. And a lot of what I've been talking about has been very much focused on kind of being in a relationship already and looking to maintain it and improve it and kind of grow and develop there, both in terms of your normal everyday behaviors and things like trust, like we talked about last week, but also looking into stuff like your the sex that you're having and the enjoyment that you're getting out of it, and what are the best things that you can do to improve those things, at least in terms of kind of your confidence and your being comfortable and how to deal with certain common problems that arise. In which case, though, I've had a couple of people kind of throw stuff at me going, but how do I get into a relationship? Now, I did a whole load of videos kind of touching on this when I first started the channel. Or at least after a little while of first starting the channel. But considering it's been, as of last week, about 2 years, those videos are probably way down in terms of the various playlists and things, and in the kind of general videos tab. In which case, I thought just to throw something out there again that would maybe just help you guys out a little bit, I'd touch in on a few things to do in regards to kind of thinking of how to set up a first date to make it successful, and then also a couple of things that lots of people say you should do, but you really fucking shouldn't, or at least in my opinion, and in terms of the successes that I've seen both for clients, myself, and other friends and things. These are things you shouldn't do. So we'll get onto those towards the end. But in terms of finding someone to fall for and all the rest of it, I'm not really going to be touching on that. I'm going to assume that you guys are at the very least capable of going and talking to someone that you're attracted to the extent that maybe you'd be able to ask them to go and do something with you, or ask them to go and eat with you, or whatever else. In regards to kind of where to look for people, if you're just lonely and you're looking for other stuff. Again, I've done videos in the past on kind of best practice in regards to things like online dating and other bits and pieces as well, to a degree. Obviously, there's always more stuff I could jump into on that. But without further ado, just saying, this is about considerations for a first date when you actually have the prospect of going on one. But anyway, let's get into it. Now, the first one, and I feel like this is something that most people have been told a lot throughout life, and that is that first impressions are important. Yeah? And I've got a little anecdote to throw you guys in a little bit to kind of exemplify this, but first impressions are so important. So, when it comes to going on a date, you want to make yourself presentable. But not everyone finds the same thing appropriate or presentable for the situation that maybe you're going into, or whatever else. More on that in a little bit. But overall, you want to make sure that your clothes are clean, that you are clean, you're in a pretty good state in terms of just general hygiene and cleanliness. If you know that you're maybe going to be going from work, just take a minute just to apply something to maybe cover up the smell of sweat, hatred of and loathing of your job, and all that kind of thing. It might not be the best way to create a first impression, but it's something to try and help you out. But otherwise, again, just try and give yourself some time before a date, so that if you're having to go from work or whatever else, then there you are. And you can go and get changed and have a wash and whatever else in between. But otherwise, just make sure that you're appropriately dressed for the person that you're going to be meeting. So, anecdote from me, a long old time ago now, so a good number of years ago, I went out, I started talking to this girl, we were having a great time, and then it was like, okay, well, why don't we meet up, have a drink and whatever else. And yeah, so we arranged it, and I had work in London on that day. I was being sent up there to engage with some new recruits to the company to help with training, and as a result, being up at head office, I was in a suit and I had my gear with me and all that kind of thing. But as a result, I thought, it's no problem. I'll on the way, on the way back out of London, I'll go straight to it. I've not been running around like a crazy person. I'm possibly the most presentable I could be, considering I'm clean. I've been just chilling out, kind of talking with people in an office or a boardroom most of the day. And so as a result, it's a case of, I'll be fine just to turn up. Me maybe being slightly overdressed will be fine because I can just take the jacket off, take my tie off, and I'll be, no worries. So I turn up, and firstly, she's late, which again is bad first impression for me at any rate. But then when she gets there, she can't believe I've worn a suit. She can't believe that a man in his mid-20s has been at work, and it's like, right, okay. In which case, she's got hung up on the first impression of me in a suit, me being seeming professional, and having other stuff to do, and I'm getting stuck on the fact that she's there in a scrappy t-shirt, ripped jeans, and is kind of being pretty childish. In which case, it's not just in terms of first impression, looking the part is fine, but you need to know how to act the part as well. You need to follow along with those things. And so as a result, that didn't go anywhere, and it was a bit daft. But it's a case of looking at that situation and going, right, well, I thought that there would be a lot more understanding there, misread maybe, or just didn't think of it. And on her part, she just got hung up on something that really wasn't a big deal. In which case, though, that first impression prevented anything else from going on. So make sure that you're appropriately dressed, you're sorted out, and that you're kind of acting the part. Make sure that if there's an explanation that you're being told as to why someone has turned up in a certain state, don't just get stuck on it. Just accept it and move on. Yeah? But anyway, next thing, and this is something that we've talked about before a lot recently in various other videos, is you need to try and be confident. Not necessarily hugely confident, not so confident that you're being arrogant, but confident just in yourself and kind of who you are. Which again, going back to my example from just a moment ago, me turning up, I was very confident in the fact that I had a good day at work and I was there just to have some fun. I was there to engage with someone that I quite enjoyed talking to, and so on. It was one of those things. I was feeling quite happy about myself that day, and yet it was still a case of that first impression not adding up. But as we've talked about before, confidence is a transferable skill. It's something that can be developed and learned and built up over time. And more importantly, it's something that you have as a reservoir for all of your activities. It's not just that you have a type of confidence for this, and a type of confidence for this, and a type of confidence for this. It all comes from one place inside you. So if you need to be confident, then you can still do that. Be happy in your own skin. Be happy in who you are, in what you're doing. And realise that if you're being confident, if you're a confident person, if you're confident with all those things, rather than just pretending, then if you get rejected, if it doesn't go the way that you wanted it to and all the rest of it, you know that you're fine. It might not be the best outcome. It might not be something that you're hoping for. I imagine very few people hope for something better to come from the end of a date rather than just a parting of ways. But again, it's a case of you're not going to flip out over it. You might not be over 6 foot and well muscled. You might not be big bummed and big breasted with a pretty face. But being happy with just who you are, turning up to a fun time, is far more important to everybody than the kind of attributes that you have. Again, you should still be clean, you should still be well kept, but you don't need to be some kind of supermodel just to turn up and have a nice time with someone. And if you're confident enough to just be happy in yourself, which again, if you've got that capacity to be confident in certain areas, you should be able to, maybe with little mental gymnastics, a little bit of thinking around it, a little bit of introspection, you should be able to get across to where you need to be in that other situation. And again, we've done videos, we've talked about this stuff over the last few weeks that have kind of touched on the confidence stuff more, which is why I'm kind of brushing over it. But okay, so far we've got making a good first impression, both in terms of your behaviour and in terms of the way that you appear to that person, because we are human and very visual, but also being confident in your behaviour, so that even if the behaviour that you are throwing out there is appropriate, make sure that it's also just reinforced with a little bit of force of personality, a little bit of you. Yeah, just make sure that you're pretty solid there. But then, what else is there to a date? Well, there's discussion, there's conversation, there's getting to know each other. In which case, the next thing that I need to say is, when you're making the plans for conversation to flow, you need to be comfortable. And if you're confident, that might be a hell of a lot easier to be comfortable in a more larger variety of places. But when if you're maybe not as comfortable in bars and pubs that might get loud or whatever else, and you prefer a quiet coffee shop or something like that, or maybe you've got a couple of favourite places that you could take people that would be really good, then, go ahead. Organise that. Because that way you're going to be far more confident. If you know how the place that you're going works, if you know what the thing that you are doing is, then that's something you don't have to worry about. And dating, the judgment from other people and all that kind of thing that's involved, it can be daunting. It can be downright terrifying. Yeah, I myself can speak quite happily of how unsettling it can be, just trying to meet people, going on dates, all that kind of thing. And it can be terrifying. Even when you are the most confident person in the world, if you actually care about what's going on, there's still an awful lot of expectations, an awful lot of other things that you need to kind of manage and juggle, which can be really difficult for a guy or a girl. In which case, if you can make sure that the place that you are going is somewhere that you know, somewhere where you know how it works and all the rest of it. One of the companies that I used to work for was a franchiser. They used to have all kinds of places all over the place, including certain pubs and restaurants and things like that. And so as a result, when I was meeting people in London, one of the things that I would do is just go, well, I literally know the staff that work there. I literally know how that place operates because I'm on the inside. In which case, I will suggest going there because it's easy to get to, it's easy to deal with, and I know how it works. In which case, didn't have to worry about it. Something that was out of my mind. I knew what I'd order from the menu. I knew what I'd have to drink. I knew how exactly I would get there, and in regards to the layout of the place and how the waiting staff would work and all that kind of thing, didn't have to worry at all. Knew it all already. In which case, did I necessarily need to tell every single person that I went there with that this was the case? No, not at all. But what it meant was, I knew, and it was a weight off my mind. In which case, I was comfortable, or at least as comfortable as I could be, possibly meeting someone new or meeting someone that I really liked or whatever else. The next thing, and this is something that I've seen a lot in friends, especially who I've helped with this stuff, and talked to about this stuff, and that is the when people get nervous, an awful lot of people tend to just talk, because they don't want to hit those moments of awkward silence. And as a result, they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. And the other person, whether they realise that person is nervous or not, and that's why they're talking so much, they might not get a word in edgeways, In which case, I've talked about awkward silences before, and how they are only awkward if they are awkward in your own head. Otherwise, they're just a silence, and silence is literally a nothing. And if it's nothing, how can it hurt you? There's that. But the way that I would suggest doing it, and the way that I have always suggested doing it, for most conversations, to be fair, where you've got just two people engaging with each other, is ask questions. Yeah, if you've both got each other asking questions of each other, then you're going to learn more. But also, if you're asking someone a question and you give them a moment to speak, yeah, let them finish what they're saying before you then go and do something else. Then that balances out the conversation a little more. What I would say is if you've both got people, if both people in this potential relationship are both aiming to let the other person speak 70% of the time and only speak themselves 30% of the time, then if they're both aiming for that, then chances are you're probably going to average out about 50-50 a tad more easily than if you've got one person who's kind of not aware of what's going on and the other person who's specifically going, right, well, I need to shut up and let them do all the talking, so I need to just ask these questions, ask these questions, ask these questions. Because then it seems like an interview. And it shouldn't be. It should be two people having a nice conversation. So look to, whether you're a guy or a girl, again, look to have those questions that you want to ask. Just fun, easy, simple questions. And then just kind of roll with it. It's an easier thing to do than either trying to talk all the time or to talk none of the time. Look to talk with that person. Listen to what they're saying. Be friendly. And that kind of moves us on to the next part of the conversation, the next point here, which is throughout the conversation, at times things can get deep in terms of discussion. But even if they're getting deep, they should still be fun. Yeah, you shouldn't necessarily go off on one, and I am guilty of this one, certainly. There have been times when I would go on dates and I'd be tired. I'd be stuck in my own head because of something that happened at work or something that happened where among friends or whatever else. And so as a result, the conversation would flow. I'd lose track. But as a result, potentially we'd get onto a topic of how much we hated our jobs. And it wouldn't be funny how much we hate our jobs. It would legitimately be negative. And we've said before, when you're wanting to be associated with certain emotions in someone's head, because let's face it, the last few years have kind of demonstrated how emotion overrides logic a lot, especially in the political world. You don't want to be associated with those feelings. If they're talking to you and they're feeling miserable about their job because of a conversation topic that's rolling on, they're going to start associating that negative feeling with you. Try and keep it light. Try and keep it happy. Yeah, talk about... if you want to talk about your job, then sure. But again, it's still a case of, even if you're complaining about hating your job, do it in a funny way. Do it as part of a funny, hard-to-believe anecdote or something. Don't just bitch about your job or how crap your boss is or whatever else. Just as an example. But men or women both want a partner that can have fun with them. Fun is the goal of the beginning of a relationship for most people. In which case, try and have that fun. Try and open up to it. Easy, simple, straightforward. Again, if you're asking questions, then you can potentially get some really good stories going between the two of you and learning some other stuff and starting up some in-jokes and things like that based on the stories you're telling each other. That's part of the fun. The next one that I would kind of just point out here is that there are a lot of people, especially if they've just finished a relationship and they're moving on to the next one. Don't bring up your ex. Like, it's tough enough as a new partner to come into a relationship and go, right, okay, this person that was here before that it didn't work out with has left a shadow. And it's a shadow that's pretty fucking long, and it seems to still be potentially sat very squarely over the person that I like and has said that wants to be with me. Like, I can try and turn on as many lights as I like, but, and try and illuminate this person's day as much as possible. But unless they're willing to let go of that really sickly, dark blanket that they have attached themselves to, that's the only remnant of their past relationship, then you're not getting anywhere. You need to have someone that's not just very patient, but also very sympathetic and possibly not willing to rock the boat so much, to get away with dropping all of the kind of X stuff in really hard, really early, and all that kind of thing. And it's just dangerous territory. It's a razor sharp tightrope, you know. So, you know, get your head out of the past, move past it, yeah. Because again, if you start talking badly of your ex, again, be you a guy or a girl, then imagine the person that you're there with is going to start imagining what you're going to be saying about them if it doesn't work out between you two. You know, it's warning signs to most people. In which case, you know, don't, even if people are asking the questions, even if the person across the table from you is asking the question about your exes, about previous relationships and things like that, that's all very well and good, but keep your answers short. Give them the bare bones of it because you don't want to go back into it. Yeah? And if they push, then just be like, look, it was a shit time. I don't want to go back into it. And if they don't respect that, then that's when you should probably go, do you know what, date's over. You know, I've drawn a line and you've walked straight across it. This ain't going to work. But anyway, the last... the last thing on this list before we move into stuff that you shouldn't do is you need to follow up. Like, you need to definitely get onto the following up side of things. And this is something that both men and women, again, suck at horribly on both sides. Partly because they all buy into Hollywood versions of romance, but also just because neither of them had the balls to sort it out. In which case, when I'm saying following up, in the world of movies, a lot of the time it comes down to, oh, give it a couple of days. Or, oh, I'll call you later. No, tell them that you had a great time with them. Message them when you get home to let them know that you got home okay. And reiterate the fact that you had a great time, and then leave it. Yeah? And then, if you don't contact them again over the next couple of days, then let's face it, you probably weren't that interested in the first place because you're either sticking to arbitrary rules that are completely irrelevant, or you're not willing to just stick your neck out. If you like that person, get in touch again. Now, sometimes people will take that the wrong way, and they will be very weird about it. I've had that a couple of times where I was just like, do you know what? It's been a day and a half, you know, because I've been at work that time. In which case, I'm going to drop that person a message, see how they're doing, ask them, you know, what they're up to, and you know, just see whether or not they'd be around to do something else. And because it was less time than 3 days, because this person had attached themselves to rules that make no sense, it kind of crumbled from there due to their perceptions of me messaging back too early. There is no such thing as too early. There is such thing as too late. If that person messages you again straight away, if you're the receiving end of this, you know, even if you go, oh, well, up to the end of the night is probably within the same sphere of the date, fine. If that person then messages you again at lunchtime on the following day, be appreciative of the fact that someone gives a shit enough to come and try and talk to you. You know, there should be no daft arbitrary rules in the way, no silly bollocks. If you want to talk to someone, just go talk to them. If you had a great time, tell them you had a great time. Don't try and act cool and just be like, yeah, I'll call you later. You know, whether you're a guy or a girl. Again, all of these are applying to both men and women here, because we, men and women, both suck at these to the same extent. And this was stuff that I had to learn the hard way, and so I'm trying to bring it to you guys so that you don't have to learn it in a difficult, unhappy situation where you're feeling disappointed or angry or wound up because someone's done the wrong thing as far as you're concerned. You know, just if you like someone, go talk to them more. Simple, straightforward, easy, not a problem. You know, communication is the key to great relationships, in which case, if you keep that conversation going and it doesn't get old, you're probably in a pretty good place. But anyway, now let's move on to the things that you just shouldn't do, that you often get told that you should. And, you know, I'm not faulting anyone for trying these things or doing these things, but quite frankly, there's a reason why doing these things can be more of a problem than like not. So the first thing that I would highlight is a lot of people are going like, oh, turn your phone off, remove distraction, all the rest of it. It's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I would say, put your phone away, don't have it out, don't look at it every single time it goes off, yeah? But this is the real world. The expectations of people being in communication with others has to be realised for any kind of relationship. In which case, yeah, if you're having a conversation with them, if you're in the middle of something, don't instantly just pick up your phone. If it rings, see who it is. But if it's something important, you need to be able to pick that up because that's the way the world works. This is more about managing expectations. Yeah? You need to show that you care, show that you're being attentive, show that you're not being distracted by other things. But the world doesn't stop just because the two of you are on a date. In which case, here's the thing. There needs to be that expectation and that managed expectation of the world not stopping, the two of you still having separate lives to one degree or another. And so even if you're on a date, even if it's your very first date and you want to make the best impression, if your mother is hit by a car and your phone goes off to tell you so, as such, just because you're on a date, you should pick up that phone. And if your date isn't understanding of that, then they're an arsehole. And you've dodged a bullet, probably. In which case, don't necessarily turn your phone off. Don't necessarily just leave it at home, which is a thing that I've heard, which is the stupidest thing ever, in my opinion, especially for people that you're meeting from online or that you've never actually met before because it's a blind date set up by friends or anything like that. No, keep your phone with you. Take it with you. You need it for your safety, let alone anything else. But, make sure that you're paying attention to that person as much as you possibly can. But again, the real world doesn't stop just because the two of you have walked into a restaurant together. In which case, make sure that there's an understanding of the real world. Because otherwise, if it's like, oh, well, those first 5 dates, he was just always paying attention to me. And then on the 6th, you have to pick up your phone or something big's happening, so you have to be on your phone more, every time they get up to go to the toilet. Every time one of you goes to the bar to get a drink, you pull your phone out, check it, make sure, message back a couple of people, and then return. Yeah? And then put the phone away. That's all you need to do. Yeah? Explain the situation, communicate. Yeah? It's simple, it's easy, but for God's sake, your phone is, nowadays, a mobile phone is very much part of necessary equipment for living and existing and interacting. In which case there needs to be an allowance for that within the interactions that you have with that potential partner as well. Manage those expectations rather than trying to just remove them entirely by leaving your phone at home, turning it off, putting it away, whatever else, unless you have complete freedom to do so. If you know that no one's going to be getting in touch with you, if you know that if you have assurances that nothing is going to go wrong, then fine, turn your phone off. But again, it still comes down to you need to have the understandings and so on. And again, it needs to be a kind of two-way thing. Both people need to do the same thing here. The next one is something that's more male-oriented in this particular instance, but it does still kind of apply to both people. And this is, neither of you should fucking offer to pay, in my personal opinion. Yeah? When it comes to people going, oh, well, whoever asks whoever else out should probably pay. Well, no, that just means that they've had the balls to go and say something. The other person has still said yes. In which case, it's the other person, the person who has been asked, that has potentially allowed the thing to become an event. So should they pay? Which way does this go round? In which case, though, also, especially if it's a first date, or if it's the first couple, then let's face it, you don't know if this is even going to go anywhere. fucking split the bill. Always just do it evenly. Do it for what you've got for yourself and all that kind of thing. Don't try and do any chivalric bollocks or trying to prove that you're a gentleman by buying stuff. Because that's how you start off on a very slanted footing to begin with. There are ways around it, like if you go, oh, I'll get the bill, and then if she's willing to pay or pay her way, then you can throw in the, oh, you get it next time, sets you up for a potential future arrangement. But ordinarily, there's a lot of time that just doesn't come to pass. In which case, just split the bill. It's simple, it's easy. Just don't penny pinch. Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do. Splitting the bill, but just demonstrating that you're a reasonable person with money and not a dick, is usually more than enough to solve the problem. And on the flip side of this, don't for especially the ladies out there who have usually been told that they should expect to have the first date paid for or whatever, don't expect it. That's a very entitled attitude. Yeah, you don't want you don't like it when expectations are put on you as part of some kind of weird transaction or exchange. So why would anyone else? In which case, don't put that expectation out there. Split the bill. Simple, easy, straightforward. And the last thing not to do, and this is a big one, lots of people are like, oh, you should get feedback from your friends. You should get feedback from your friends about kind of where you're taking people, what you're doing with them. No, don't do this. Your friend's new to you. Your friends, as part of a social circle, usually try to hold you in place so that there is the set hierarchy, the set establishment within that social structure. They are not necessarily meaningfully doing so, but they will literally kind of cut your balls off or otherwise sabotage you. Yeah? And they, as I said, they might not do it meaningfully. It might be just that they don't know the person that you are interested in as well as you do. Trust yourself, go that way. Lots of people are like, oh, you should talk to a friend of yours of the opposite sex. No, because then they're going to base it on their own perceptive filter. They're going to attach all of their own little elements to it. The person who you should be talking about things with, throwing ideas around with, and all that kind of thing, to go and have a great time, is the person that you're going out with. Should not be your friends. Don't do it. It's a road towards sabotage. Yeah? And again, your friends may love you. They may want the best for you, but they aren't you. And they're definitely not the person that you're going out with. In which case, trust you. Trust the person you're going out with. Don't go and sabotage yourself by allowing other people a voice in a literal two-person interaction. But anyway, guys, I hope you found these interesting, and if you put them into practice, I hope you find them useful. Are there any others that you would add to these lists? Either the things that you should do in prep for a first date, or things that you should definitely not do in regards to prep for a date? Or do you agree? Do you disagree? Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, found it interesting, please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.